These Florida politicians just canceled their own elections so they could stay in power. Yeah, seriously, they didn't ask voters, they didn't hold a referendum, they just voted among themselves and decided, let's skip this year. In this video, I'll show you how they pulled it off without even pretending to get public approval. How the state of Florida is now saying, oh yeah, well, we're gonna come after your ass. And how this could set a terrifying precedent for every other city in Florida if this is allowed to stand. Why do politicians do this? Let's jump in. All right, here's the city pulling this shady move. It's Miami. Not some tiny town nobody's heard of. We're talking about one of the biggest cities in Florida just flat out canceling its next election. Seriously. The 2025 election, gone. The people in charge just voted among themselves and pushed it back a year. No big deal, right? So who actually made this call? It was the Miami City Commission, basically Miami's version of a city council. There's 5 commissioners total. Each one represents a different part of the city. And on June 26th, 3 of them, Damian Pardo, Ralph Rosado, and Christine King, voted yes to cancel the 2025 election and move it to 2026. 2, Miguel Angel Cabela and Joe Carollo, voted no. That's it. A 3-2 vote. No public input, no citizen approval, just 5 people get to decide when the next election should happen. And here's the crazy part. The mayor doesn't even get a vote in this. The current mayor, Francis Suarez, can influence policy and make public statements, but Miami has a weak mayor system. He's not part of the vote. The commission holds the real power, but in this case, the mayor gets to reap all those benefits. He's not just a bystander, he's the one walking away with an extra year in office. And Mayor Suarez has been the mayor since 2017, but he's term limited. He can't run for re-election, so he'd be out later this year. But get this, before becoming mayor, he was a Miami City Commissioner starting in 2009. So if this extension goes through, he'll have spent 17 consecutive years in City Hall, 8 as a commissioner and 9 as mayor. And Commissioner Joe Carollo, he's also term limited. He's been in and out of Miami City Commission since 1979. But here's the wild part. Back in 1997, he ran for mayor against Xavier Suarez. Yep, the current mayor's dad. Suarez won at first, but it turned into a full-blown scandal. A court found nearly 400 fake absentee ballots, some from dead people and some from felons. The fraud was so bad, they threw out the results. And after a legal fight, a special election was held in 1998, and Carollo won, kicking Suarez out of office. You don't see that every day. And yeah, if you guys Google his name, there's no shortage of controversy. Tons of allegations over the years. Now, nothing ever proven, but still, the guy's not exactly flying under the radar. So no election, just a bonus year for both of them. Kinda seems like nobody wants to give up power over there, doesn't it? So yeah, 5 local politicians just rewrote the election calendar. No campaign, no public say, just let's stay in power longer. You voted them in for 4 years and they decided they deserve 5. That's not leadership. That's a rigged game, homie. And I know what you're thinking. How the hell can that happen? Well, here's the excuse they're hiding behind. The commissioners say they're not doing this for themselves. No, they're doing it for the people. The story goes like this. If Miami holds its local elections in even-numbered years, like 2026, more people will show up to vote. Because, hey, those are the big election years. You got state and federal races, Congress, maybe even the presidency. So they figure, let's just tack on the city election while people are already at the polls, which I'll admit, it makes a lot of sense. They're also saying it'll save money. Fewer election days, fewer expenses, more efficient. And sure, that sounds great on paper, but here's the part they're leaving out. If this was really about helping voters, they could have made the change after the 2025 election. Let that cycle finish, then start fresh in 2026. Instead, they pushed it right now, right when a commissioner and the mayor were supposed to be up for re-election. And yeah, the mayor is probably the one who benefits most from this. Francis Suarez isn't running again. He's term limited, but now he gets to hang around for 1 extra year. No vote, no campaign, just bonus time in office. That's not democracy. That's a free extension. What they're calling a smart reform looks more like a loophole. They're acting like this is about good governance, but it just happens to help the very people voting on it. And they're doing it quietly, without giving the public a real say. If the goal was truly better turnout, why not hold town halls? Why not ask the voters? Why not run a public campaign to build support? You don't do all this in the shadows unless you got something to gain. And if you're trying to pull off some shady shit in Florida, there are two people you don't really want to piss off. One runs the state, the other enforces its laws. And both of them just stepped into this mess. We're talking about Governor Ron DeSantis and Attorney General James Uthmeier. And yeah, they're not happy. Uthmeier fired off a scorching letter to Miami's mayor and commissioners, straight up calling the move illegal. He didn't hold back. He wrote, "The state will not tolerate such an unconstitutional deviation," and warned them to immediately cease the process of enacting the ordinance to move the date. The citizens of Miami deserve and are entitled to the right to make this decision directly. And if they don't back off, his office reserves the right to consider all available actions to shut it down. Then DeSantis backed him up, saying Miami's officials do not have the authority to cancel this year's elections and extend their term in office without voter approval. That's not just a polite suggestion. That's a flashing red light from the top of the state. This isn't some squabble over paperwork. This is about following the law. Both Uthmeier and DeSantis are pointing to hard rules: the Florida Constitution and the Miami-Dade Home Rule Charter. These aren't suggestions. These are the foundation of how elections are supposed to work in Florida. And these laws say loud and clear, you can't change election dates or stretch your time in office without going to the voters first. If they ignore that, they're not just bending the rules, they're trashing the system. And if Miami gets away with it, other cities are gonna start trying it too. And when people started calling this illegal, Miami's lawyers tried to play it off. They said, oh, don't worry, another city did the same thing and it was fine. That city? North Miami. And it's true, a judge let them delay their elections a couple years ago. So now Miami's using that as their excuse. But here's what happened. North Miami delayed its 2023 election to line it up with the big one we just had in November 2024, basically handing themselves an extra 18 months in office. The mayor, commissioners, they all got to stay in power longer, and yeah, some people were furious. A guy named Hector Medina and other voters sued the city, saying the delay was illegal, but the court sided with North Miami. Why? Because their city charter doesn't require a public vote to change election dates, so the delay stuck. Now, Miami's trying to use that case to defend what they just did, but here's where it falls apart. Miami and North Miami are not the same city, and more importantly, they don't follow the same rules. North Miami operates under its own city charter, but the city of Miami, it has to follow both its city charter and the Miami-Dade County Home Rule Charter. And that charter is crystal clear. If you want to move elections or extend your term, the people have to vote on it, period. No loopholes, no side deals. And that's why the Florida Attorney General is stepping in. He already warned them that this legal argument doesn't hold up because it doesn't even apply to their charter. So yeah, nice try, but using North Miami as your cover story here is weak. It's not a legal defense, it's just a distraction. And honestly, it just makes you look like you're trying to get away with something. And let's not forget about the people who were actually running for office in this year's election. They're pissed, and for good reason. Mayoral candidate Emilio Gonzalez called it a power grab that cuts voters out of the process. And get this, 18 people had already filed to run for mayor in the open commissioner seats. They've been out there knocking on doors, raising money, kissing hands and shaking babies, and then boom, no election. Just like that, gone. Now, Gonzalez is doing more than complaining. He's suing. As of June 30th, he filed a 41-page lawsuit arguing that the vote to move Miami's elections from 2025 to 2026 gave Suarez and the commissioners an extra year in office without asking voters. He says they unconstitutionally bypassed the democratic will of the people and slammed the move as something more out of Venezuela or Cuba than the US. His lawsuit points to the Florida Constitution, the Miami-Dade Charter, and even the city's own rules, all which, he says, make this completely illegal. And look, it's not about legal language, it's about common sense. The mayor makes around $97,000 a year for a part-time job. Add in Joe Carollo's salary, and you got almost $200,000 in public money staying in their pockets for another year, with no vote. That's taxpayer money. That's time in office voters didn't agree to. And here's what should scare everybody. If they can do this once, they can do it again. What if in 2028 they say, voter turnout was lower than we expected, so we're switching it back to odd years? That would mean skipping the 2028 election and pushing it back to 2029. That's not a one-year extension. That's 2 extra years they could hand to whoever they want. That's not how this is supposed to work. You want to do the right thing? It's simple. Hold a vote, let the people decide, set the change for some future election when nobody knows who's going to be in office. That way, no one's giving themselves more time, more money, or more power. It's fair, it's legal, it's what the charter actually says. But by doing it now, while they're still in power, it just makes it obvious this wasn't about helping the city, this was about helping themselves. When politicians start changing the rules to benefit themselves and skip letting the people decide, that's not public service. That's self-preservation. Elections are the one thing regular people still control. If they can cancel those without a fight, what's next? I hope the governor and the attorney general come down hard on this. And every commissioner who voted for it, they don't deserve to win another election. Not after this. In Miami, you better get your shit together because there's a whole new wave of people getting ready to move in. Click here to learn why this guy is causing another mass migration to Florida. He's running for office and his politics are so crazy, people are scared to death and fleeing his state, just in case he wins. Click here and I'll see you there.